What's up? Welcome to the Monday morning data chat. We have our regular guest now, it seems. We've got Chris Tabb here once again. What's up, man?
I'm just the squatter now. I've just moved into their room now.
He got kicked out of his.
Speaking of rooms, so yeah, if you caught Friday's Let's Talk Data Engineering, we're doing it from the hotel lobby, and I got yelled at for
masks.
Yeah. we were reprimanded for being in a public place this close together, but downstairs, not in a room.
Yeah, it was terrible.
So just to be safer, we're doing it in the room now, not to give anyone COVID.
Awesome, cool. So I think today we're going to talk about career advice in data, right? So it's a topic that comes up a lot. I got a couple messages over the weekend from people who wanted career advice, about data engineering. I think data more broadly. What career advice would you give your younger self?
So it was interesting. We had a good chat, some blue sky thinking at the pub the other night when we were talking about our experiences from hiring people recently and what I actually look for. And there's a big focus on the skills, to learn Python, learn Spark, learn library specific to those on how deep you go with it. And that's not what I look for when bringing on graduate engineers or entry level engineers. I'm looking for the problem solving. So if they're probably working at the moment, which is good, hopefully. But any of my old grads that we've onboarded is what I look for, and I ask them in the interview is I want them to explain a problem they've solved and then how they've solved that problem. The technology they use, the syntax they use, how performant it was is nowhere near as relevant as how they've taken the challenge and how they've looked to solve that problem. And if they can then articulate the reason why they did it, even if it was the wrong source or wrong way, but this is the reasons why they did it that way, it's much easier then to help teach them the technology to do that, how to optimize it, maybe some thought processes, or maybe you would have got these requirements structured in a different way to help you with the solution. So that's a great starting point. And anyone looking to go for that job interview, have yourself your Git repo that's it's got a showcase thing in it. Just talking through the steps you made, how you did it, associated code with it, any test data sets you use for it, and explain it. And I think maybe after time, maybe you might not get the first job, but you'll get some feedback on it. Second one, you may get some more feedback. After a while, you have a really good repo that you've just learned from, maybe not failed interviews because they're not failed. You've actually learned something from them. But it's part of that journey, I think.
Seems like it. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, one of the things we look for in hiring is just a willingness to learn, right? I mean, we've hired a lot of people from different domains. We've hired actually some Linux experts who are turning into data engineers. We've hired people from software development who really didn't have data experience, but kind of like you were saying, Chris, there was a baseline of understanding there. Yeah. We could see in our interviews, okay, this person can solve problems. A lot of it is almost them interviewing us too. In other words, like, this is what's expected of this job. Like, are you willing to get new certifications all the time? You're willing to learn new technologies. And I think a lot of people actually have found are scared off by that. But if they're not scared off by that, and we see a solid track record of learning and problem solving, that is a good starting point. And another thing, frankly, is, we tend to bring people in as interns, like with very little experience, but then if it works out, we just give them a very quick boost in terms of their position in the company and corresponding compensation and such. And so that way it makes it much easier for us to transition people out of careers. So as Joe likes to say, it's the build versus buy thing, right? Yeah. And everyone complains about there not being enough talent around right now in data. So it's like, well, why don't you do something about it?
To be fair, we've had good luck, I think, hiring senior talent as well.
We have.
But at the same time, it's the first job is always the hardest, right? Yeah. And it's kind of like, and I get it. And for the audience out there, I'm sure you're tuning in for career advice, right? So it's really a question of, can you find somebody who's going to take a chance on you? That's always been the hardest part. So, but how do you do that, right? How do you, get experience at a job and a job without experience? So it's been like it's the classic paradox.
Catch-22.
Yeah, it is. And I think also building out your network. I think the best opportunities, if you have to apply for a job that really sucks in a lot of ways. Actually, maybe now it's easier because people are just leaving their jobs. So, but the point is, even for junior things still, I think it's still difficult to get your first job. And so, building out your network, I've seen that work really well for people. In a lot of cases, classically, it's always about who you know. It's not about what you know. But unfortunately, what you know is kind of all you have when you're starting, right? So how would you build a network? Well, social media is a good one. Twitter, LinkedIn, go to meetups, especially virtual meetups now, but I would say in person, it's going to be happening more. GitHub, like Chris says, I think GitHub is a social network, actually. Yeah. So, but you got to build up that network of people. Your biggest enemy right now is obscurity, early in your career, because nobody knows who you are, right? So nobody's really going to take a chance on an unknown quantity unless you find some way to impress them. So
I think another major problem getting into a career is that you're in school, undergrad, master's degree, even a PhD. It feels very hard to get experience with practical data technologies. And a few years ago, it kind of was, right? Like, it was like 2013. It's like, how am I going to get experience with Hadoop? I can do some toy exercises on my laptop. But that's not actually really Hadoop, even though it's the same code base. But now, like, there's so much technology you can just spin
Software
up.
as a service, you can go and do that, do the tutorials on those ones. Yeah.
Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift. You can just turn them on. And
no credit card required. Just go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think you brought up quite a few good points, actually, but one of the ones was the two-way interview. So not knowing, and we interviewed the data engineer. He was he wanted to be a data. He thought he wanted to be a data engineer, and he was Python, and he was just asking, but am I going to build this visualization? Am I going to build this? He wanted to be an app developer. That's where he wanted to be. He didn't really know what a data engineer was. So it was a two-way interview process to make sure that this person does know actually the task, the role, what they'll be doing, and if you don't want to bring them on board, spend that time, from an employer, and it's not be what they want. So, it's definitely a two-way thing. Is the interviewer, the candidate is making sure it's a place they want to work, and then the interviewer needs to make sure that they've given a good enough description of what they're going to be doing. You don't want to be sold the dream and then realize all you're doing is documentation for someone else when you're there. So you want to be able to give the opportunities to solve those problems on their own.
And frankly, if I'm interviewing someone and they're asking me good questions, I know that that tells me that they're going to be a good fit for the job. That makes me more likely to want to offer.
What are good questions?
So kind of like you were saying, Chris, like, if they're asking me detailed questions about what the expectations of the job are, and also expressing things that they're interested in. So it's not just questions, but also saying, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I'd like to do in the future. Not just trying to conform themselves into what the job is, but kind of expressing what they're interested in. Like, what do you guys actually do? How do you interact with clients? What are your expectations in terms of communications? What tools do you use? Those are very good questions that I really like.
I think the career path is what's their career path? What do you want to do? And the ones that may just say, I want to be a data scientist, and straight away you think, okay, right, hold on. Maybe you need to work out what the route is there. If you said to me, okay, right, I want to be a data analyst for a bit, and I'd like to be a data engineer. Maybe I'd like to be a data architecture, and I want to do some visualization. And then I'd like to have a look at doing some data science. Well, maybe not as many steps as that, but you won't know you want to be a data scientist till you know about data. Like other people say, I want to be a CDO. Okay, yeah, great. I just roll you out of university, you can be CDO straight away or after reading a few books. No, it's never going to happen. All right. So what you need to have is a path. And I mean, there's a good summer school that's used to be run by Calibra, it's run by Soda now. It's run by Caroline and Peter. I mean, I attended one of the first ones, and they would show that a CDO role can come from many different backgrounds, and the CDO role itself has evolved. Like we talk about data engineering roles evolving into different, more granular ones. So you've got different flavors of CDOs now as well. So don't say I want to be a CDO. Work out what path, career path, or stepping stones would get you collectively enough skills that you could be effective as a CDO. And it's not going to be overnight. And also, I mean, remember,
you're telling me I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to graduate, and I'm not going to be a CDO.
No, or a data scientist. After
Chris, come on, man.
No, I'm sorry. Reality check. I'm going to break the hearts of all these people out there studying, realizing that they're not actually.
What about a CTO?
Well, no, that won't happen either. But the other thing is, would you ever want a CTO role? It's my experience is when I got to it, I was doing seating plans, people's performance reviews, and not doing the stuff I like doing. So realize what level you really like to work at, because it's not just about the title, getting that C-suite, C name on it. It's doing. I prefer to do a job I love doing and really passionate about, and not have a C title. So that would be my view.
CXO.
So yeah, but I've got CXO. Yeah, but so yeah, I can't decide what fills the X in though. So I just do a lot.
How do people decide? How do people figure out what they're going to like in a job? Because like you don't want to hire someone and they're smart, they're educated, but they actually don't like the job. If they don't like the job, then they're probably not going to be very good at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously an initial job that you're interviewing them for.
Yeah.
So you need to gauge their appetite, their enthusiasm. And if the other way around, you need to show your enthusiasm for what you're doing. And I think we've said this before, you can't fake enthusiasm. Well, most people can see through it. But if you are passionate about data, you're passionate about solving problems, you're passionate about whatever this role is all about, if you get that across, then that's something I always look for. And if I can see that, and they've got the syntax wrong for an average dense ranking on a bit of SQL, I don't care. You can Google that in 2 seconds to get it. But to knowing that it was, they wanted to do some sort of analysis like that, but they haven't quite got the right one, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean that brings up a point, right? Where I think there's things that you hire for that are unteachable. And there's things that are Googleable and teachable. So unteachable stuff would be stuff like integrity or, good character, honesty.
Yep.
That can be trained, but you can't Google how to be honest, right? And so I tend to wait, especially with the new candidate, you're hiring for raw talent, I would say, and capability, right? It's unproven. And the only things I've really found that works is if the person does have honesty, integrity, and good work ethic. I mean, if you don't have those things, like you're not going to really succeed in any career, long term, right? If you're dishonest, for example, and have low character and low integrity, the world's a small place, so you'll be found out. If you don't have a good work ethic, you're next to hopeless, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, like what's going to get you far in your career is your network, and just, I think, taking the time to just simply take it day by day, and eventually you just end up outworking people at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you can't underestimate the value of recommendations or someone checking you out. And you can lose it overnight, and it takes ages to gain. But if anyone, I know someone looking for if they see that I'm connected to them, they'll send me a message, and then I answer honestly. Do you know this guy? Did you work for him? Is he any good? And I say yes or no,
right?
Or maybe, depends what you're doing, and it's as simple as that. So obviously, don't all be nice to me now just because you think I'm going to do that, because
definitely flatter Chris.
I'll see through that as well. But it's getting that network, getting that reputation. And most of my roles I've had during my whole career have just been people I know I've worked with have said, "Come join us," and it fast tracks you. But to get that on that entry thing, and obviously it's a starting one, is have that good shop window, all right, that good LinkedIn profile. Do any of the there's some great the stuff you put out there, or the training stuff you put out is fabulous.
Give talks.
Give talk.
Yeah.
Listen to talks. Read blog posts.
Yeah.
Look at different people. Like someone looking at data mesh. Someone you think, well, okay, don't just believe that. Look at an alternative view of it as well. Make your own mind up on things, and look to do any of the. You can do Udemy stuff for the technology things and that, but I think it's more about. I think you get a lot more from the shows that Joe and Matt do, and other ones, and
the ones you're on.
Other ones I turn up, they're okay as well. But it's out. And if you do want to go talk about that CDO thing, sign up for Soda's CDO summer school next year. If that's a route, it's a good path to do that stuff. There's some great books out there as well, isn't there, Joe? So I mean, there's you can data engineering books and things.
Thank you, Chris, for the plug. You can go check out the first couple chapters of our O'Reilly book, Fundamentals.
Yeah, Chris has been actually helping review the book too. So.
And it's not. It is anyone coming into this and understanding it, and we talked about this and chatted about it for ages, as collectively, is that the world's not a simple place when we came into it. When I started my career in data, there wasn't that many moving parts. It was very easy to get exposure to every single part of the process. it didn't have fancy names like data engineering and everything else. And it was just a bit of ETL development, bit of SQL, maybe some Bash scripts to get your file. It was a simpler world. And then you were doing the requirements. In fact, I remember people used to work with us. We used to go into the server rooms and go and put in the pizza box servers to go and put the CDs in to go install PowerPlay or Impromptu or SQL Server 6 or whatever it was back then. It's but you got to understand everything then because it was a smaller world.
Mm-hmm.
That's not there now. So the things that I've learned over that exposure of as the area is fragmented. I know a little bit about a lot, but then I know who knows a lot about the thing I don't know,
right.
The detail. And to get that now, it's a long journey. And I think I'd like to see if maybe as a career plan or something, have a capability matrix of what you think is the end-to-end skills, functions, technologies, lesser degree that you want to achieve, because technologies come and go. The capabilities, the functions they perform will always stay. They might change, might get called reverse ETL, BLT, LTE, or whatever they want to call it, but it's just ETL.
Yeah, we're talking with a good friend, Veronica, as well about that at dinner. If you're watching, hi, it's nice to meet you too, Veronica. But she was talking about, this kind of a similar thing where the technologies are changing a lot, but if you understand the underlying principles of stuff like SQL, right? She showed me a book, that she's had for 20 years now, and I thought that was pretty cool. But it's still relevant, and that's the kind of stuff you also need to study. But again, when you're early in your career, right? I mean, it's really a process of filtering out signal versus noise. And right now, I would say it's the noisiest time I've ever seen. Learning it's easier than ever, and it's harder than ever.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, got a couple questions here. Ask DevOps. It's kind of a two-part question. So the hiring process for data engineer versus data infra and platform is kind of same in many companies. How to improve them and sell this to HR and managers? What do you guys think?
So it goes back down to that clear definition of the roles. So having a very generic data engineering job spec with a wish list of everything you need in there is not going to help HR understand what you really need, because you probably need two roles or more than one. And as long as you get all of those skills across the whole team, that's what you actually need. You don't find that one person. So HR will be rejecting every single CV because they don't tick every single box. But what you actually need is 3 CVs to help build your team that ticks each box. So helping your HR department understand that is a big thing.
Well, in terms of hiring, how do we fix the problems in the hiring system right now? Because kind of like you're saying, Chris, you have a list of 80 technologies, and any one engineer maybe is really good at 3 or 4 of them, and we see this all the time.
Well, yeah. Well, especially when you're building versus buying now, right? I think this is a really big thing where applicant tracking systems, I think, they're a okay filter. I think they're actually a really dumb filter, because what you're going to miss is all the latent talent out there that's simply not ever going to get through the applicant tracking system to begin with, right? And so, it's at a large company, I don't know how else you're going to do it, unfortunately, because you just have so much scale and so many applicants. But that's why I think hiring managers, we do have people from FANG companies that hit us up asking if we know of any data engineers, right? This happens to us, I would say, often. The reason is we have a filter that their recruiting team doesn't, which is we're able to find sort of the outliers or the hidden talent that simply isn't going to respond to a recruiter. But that's sort of what it takes these days. And it applies to new applicants as well, and people new in the career where, again, it comes back to getting visibility with people that could give you a chance, really, because we all had somebody who took a chance on us at one point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it seems like it's the old adage about you go to the war with the army you have. And I think all of us need to focus more on looking at the talent that's out there and finding people who can contribute in a variety of ways. And then, as you said, Joe, basically build them up into more specific skill sets that are going to help your team even more. It's
especially right now, hiring, dude, it's so cost prohibitive. I mean, I saw some stat, and I need to verify it, but engineering salaries had gone up 30% in last year, which, if that's true, that presents a challenge
in the US. That is in the US.
In the US,
just clarifying, the UK working for us, no 30% pay rise.
But I mean, if that's true, that presents a conundrum, because retention is hard now. You know, and then hiring just got way more expensive.
Yeah.
So,
and yet paradoxically, we see a lot of people who can't find jobs because no one is giving them a chance because they don't have like 20 years of Spark experience or something ridiculous that's in a job rec. It's like, well, no one has 20 years of Spark experience. I'd be willing to bet money, but there's some job description out there that says 20 years of Spark experience. There's got to be, right?
I think I've seen similar ones about 8 years of Kubernetes experience. Exactly. Yeah. With the guy that wrote 30, it, maybe you might have it.
40 years
he probably would get a job
experience. Like, yeah, exactly.
I had a question here from Christine. She asked, do you think academia has attempted to set boundaries between an academic quality of work and what is acceptable for a commercial and professional community? Secondly, do some of these boundaries can make it difficult to go from possessing an advanced academic degree to working in a commercial professional role? I think, Matt, this is a question I think suited for you.
So I would say, I mean, what my experience was that it was hard to get my first data job. At the same time, like if you have an advanced degree, it does give you a lot of social capital. I mean, you really are privileged with that advanced degree. On the other hand, you know, what advice would I give to people in terms of getting advanced degrees? I don't know, like might be worthwhile to stick that up front, but maybe just try to go find a job instead if you know that's ultimately what you want to do. But if you already gone through the educational system, then just really try to leverage that advantage that you have by connecting through your network and finding people who give you a shot.
Tech is one of these weird fields where I think it's a messed up field, but I would say it's also a meritocracy.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have the most advanced degree in the world, but if you're not keeping up on the latest stuff and you're not pushing your knowledge and contributing, like you're out.
And I think also making sure you don't think you're better than other people that haven't got it. So So you've all gone into this together, and you may have different ways of approaching it, or different structures of doing it. But I have seen that. I've got the I've studied this stuff.
Show of hands, who has an advanced degree here?
No, I don't have one.
See,
I'm the only one. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I teach grad school, right? But I don't have an advanced degree. I'm part of me wants to get one at some point, but part of me doesn't really see the value in it based upon where I am right now in my career. I don't really need it.
So my only sort of like experience at university was when I did their data strategy for them.
Yeah,
I didn't actually go to university, but I was good enough to do a data strategy for one.
But I would say universities are starting to appreciate people with like experience from the tech industry now. I'm hearing it more and more. That's we got hired to teach.
I worked there,
right? It was not a very pecunious decision, let's say, but they were very interested in us contributing to their students by just bringing in our perspective from industry. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, talk about we talked about the syllabus and again, from not doing it myself, but just seeing it on the other side, is you're saying it's very much a rigid sort of approach, and rather than giving them the problems to solve, it's still like textbook style. Okay, here's it. There's the answer. Whereas looking at how they tackle challenges, would you say that's accurate, or is
it depends, I think, on the class. I would say for a math class like Matt would teach, like it's probably a lot more standard. For the class that we teach right now, advanced analytics, we try and mimic the real world. In fact, one student review, it was loathing of us, actually. He didn't like it because he's like, these guys just teach what they do in the in the real world in the day job. It's like, and sorry, unapologetic about that. Like that's exactly why we were hired. But we take the approach of open-ended, like we're going to tell you what needs to get done. You're going to figure out how to do it, because that's how the real world works. That's the important part of the class. And the point that we try and convey to the students, automatically, it's like, we're not here to give you the answers. If you want that, there's probably plenty of other resources. We're here to teach you how to think about solving problems. So that's what employers want.
And I'd say it's been an evolution, right? Like we started out, we still have a lot of textbook problems in there, but increasingly we'll just hand them a table and say, here's the raw data, go fix the types or filter out the node, do whatever thing you have to do to clean the data up and make it useful, give them some criteria, and then they have to go solve.
Yeah. And we never come up with a standard solution.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw some students who had better solutions than we did, to be frank. And it's like, that's cool.
You get to learn from them. And
it happens a lot too. I find it works both ways. And so, but academia, I think that the problem is now academia is trying to shoehorn in an academic process that's existed for, well over 100 years. And it doesn't really match what is needed today. I have the liberty of saying stuff like that, just because, again, we work in the real world and we teach, and I think that how we're doing it, and we advise universities on their curriculum as well. And so I don't think that what we're saying is without merit. Like, we're helping with this, but I think it's a just cause. Like when I started teaching, I felt it was part community service in some way, right? Where I wanted to give back and help students maybe get a different perspective than what they were getting, because you're paying a lot of money for these classes, especially when you're in grad school, right? So, she got another question here, Chris.
Yeah, my view of certifications. I don't know who this is, but I do support them. I think they're very useful for two reasons. One, as a consultancy company, to show that the people you've got, you're not just throwing on someone onto the site that doesn't know anything about it. I think combining that certification with the other thing I mentioned, a real life use case, so you don't have to spend too long, hopefully, on the technology piece. And I'll give Snowflake an example. If I know one of my team's gone and done the training, done the there's some standard stuff that we've got when we onboard people, and then done the certification at the end, and they've passed. I know that they're good enough to, if they're good enough to do that, they're good enough to go on site, and they're good enough for me to give them challenges or tasks that they can manage themselves, because they know technically how to solve it. And I think it's also the flip side is we see that the people, they want to go and do an AWS certification, or they want to do this, and they want to expand themselves. And I think that comes into encouraging that within your team, because there's only so much I can teach people, because there's only so much I know. But there's so many other things I don't know. If I can't, and there's no one else in the team to do that, they can go and become that advocate, that specialist within there. They can go and do that, and then play that back. On a Friday brown bag lunch day. Come back and say, look, this is what I've just learned. This new product, this is what it did, and then talked about learning from your students. Now I'm learning from the other people, team members. I don't have time to go and do all this stuff now. So I think certifications are a piece of it. It's not the only piece. So anyone out there, you're going and doing them all without doing the other things you mentioned, having that Git repository that showed what you did with it, that storyboarding of what, explaining why you did what you did with it. All of those things together is what will get you hired. I'll be honest, halfway, if it's 20 minutes into an interview, I'll see them, I've already got a good feeling about them, and I see them present something like that, and they explain it that way, I'm already texting the agent, said, yeah, done. And the poor guy might think I'm switched off, but then I am. I'm actually probably doing other things on the phone. So I'm busy, but I already know he's got the job, so he's happy afterwards, or they're happy.
Yeah.
So that's that what I'd say is the key to success. It's not just one piece. It's a combination of them to build your shop window, to make you prepare for those interviews, to be able to talk, articulate in a way that they want you. You'll end up interviewing them. Actually, I've got a few other offers. I don't know.
It depends. I think it depends on what certification we're talking about too.
Yeah, and the context too, right? It's like Veronica was saying.
Oh yeah.
At dinner, it's like certifications in a vacuum just do not impress us. Like if you don't know, you've never used AWS and you've passed all the AWS certs, I don't care. But on the other hand, one of the dangers of AWS and GCP and all these cloud platforms is something we call the curse of familiarity, which is everything looks so familiar. It's like, oh, it's just like my Linux box that I set up at home, but it's not the same. And where this really comes in is in security and cost controls. And someone who is not certified is less likely to know the basics of network security, S3 bucket security, redshift security, stuff that is really, really important.
Well, I've been on AWS, been using it since 2010, 2011 or whatever. And the crazy thing is, or I can't remember which year actually, but early. And so I've been using it for a bit. Then I took the AWS Architect Cert in 2017, I think, or around there. And I realized I actually didn't really know AWS as well as I thought I did at all, actually. Because I think what the certs teach you is how to do things and think about things the way maybe that particular cloud wants you to think about them. And there's just nuance. Every cloud, every technology has its own approach, its own philosophy. And I think unless you take a comprehensive view of understanding a technology and an ecosystem, it's actually hard. Certs, I think, provide a very efficient way to do that. And like I said, I found the same thing with other certs I've done, where I felt like I sort of knew the tool and the ecosystem, but then you get in and you're like, okay, so this is actually how it should operate. holistically. And once you have that framework, I think it's easier to approach other ecosystems. Like jumping from AWS to GCP or to Azure isn't that hard at all once you know how one ecosystem should work. That said, there are nuances, very specific nuances.
I found the most similar one though. If you know AWS, Alibaba is very similar. Just stick one letter in front, and like S3 becomes SA3. So it makes it very easy to transition between the two of them. So, great work there.
Yeah, I've heard some opinions about that I won't.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Mark Keeling asks, what recent research have you found that could convince your employer to increase compensation to market level? Any links?
Oh man.
So I think one thing is, if they're not paying you what you want to be paid in there, then maybe they're not appreciating you, and maybe you should be looking elsewhere. If you go heavy-handed and say, right, I want this amount of money now. Well, one, you maybe not comparing apples to apples, so you might go and get something there, and it doesn't take into context either your location, additional skills, maybe the industry specific stuff, because people in finance get paid more in retail, just is the way it is. I wouldn't be going to my boss going waving a bit of paper going to do that, and have a constructive conversation and just say, look, I've done this year, I've done that this year, and hopefully you'll get remunerated. If not, I think there's lots of people looking for data people out there.
That's true.
I think another thing I look at, if I've been in a job long enough now that I'm not learning anything new, not getting a new industry, no other career step to go and do something else, I'm on the look. I wouldn't be staying there anymore. I'd be looking for the next challenge.
That's such a good point. The convincing part too isn't just, okay, so here's factually how much I could be making, but it's like, here's how much you would stand to lose if I left.
Yep.
Right? Because you will need to now reinvest all that time and money at a higher rate into somebody else. And good luck finding anybody right now.
Yeah.
Not a day goes by I don't talk to several people asking if I know data engineers or architects or whoever. Yeah. It's real. The hiring crunch is fully on right now. So I would say I'd flip the question and say, what's the employer doing to keep you around right now in a very, I've never seen it like this. Have you seen it like this?
No,
how competitive it is?
Crazy.
Nuts.
And yet there are a lot of contradictory signals too, right? Like a lot of the FANG companies are now claiming, I think many of them already cut wages for remote workers. It's like, okay, are all those remote workers just going to bail and go somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, should that,
it depends how much they're being paid in the first place.
Yeah. With bonuses and things, you get a lot of money.
Yeah, so people living in the Bay Area and then else move to Thailand. They could probably take the pay cut a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But it is crazy, though. I mean, this environment is such where I would definitely flip the question around and ask employers, like, what are you doing to hang on to people? Not really, how do I convince my boss to get a raise? Because you can convince your boss to get a raise by just going somewhere else and getting a raise.
Yeah.
Well, but the problem with that, and that's always the attitude, right? But the problem with that attitude is like, HR always says, oh, just get another offer. Well, if someone gets another offer, all they have to do is sign. And they're gone. It's just like one step in the Markov chain, and they're out the door.
And I suppose this is advice of what I would do. Advise other people, not what I've done in the past myself. So because we joked that obviously if anyone paid me £50 more a day, I would have jumped. But no, that was not the case so much. But yeah,
you're a cheap date. So it's fine.
But if you want to leave. Don't try and. Yeah. Don't stay somewhere and say, I'm undervalued, underpaid. Okay, go for the job interview. See what the market's like. See you can get that other offer.
Says he has an HR that we can use to advocate for higher compensation. I think that's cool if you're blessed to have that. Like that. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it shows that your HR department's at least enlightened. There's a lot of, I would say, pretty moronic HR departments, to be totally fair. And so it's just... I don't know, man. It's like paint by numbers. But in this day and age, again, you can't take that for granted at all. Like, it is hyper competitive for talent. I was talking to startup founders all weekend, right? And people who and also people who have data teams at fairly big companies, and unanimously across the board, the thing is, hey, hiring. Do you know of anybody? Right? We're also hiring, by the way, both of our companies. So, and everyone's hiring. I would say, it's just if you are in a situation where you need to make more money. Go make more money.
Yeah. And I think simple. It's also, if you want to work in an environment, it's not all, again, I would say, but it is not all about the money. It's about the experience of working environment. If you're going to work for some hedge fund that you go with there and the salary's higher, but you're working 12, 13, 14 hours a day,
Not that any of us would ever do that.
Oh, I work 16, but it's
yeah, that's lightweight, man. What are you talking about?
But no, I mean, yeah, and it's not an enjoyable environment. You know, it's stressful. You've got deliveries to meet. You may want to work for maybe a cool consultancy that gives you variety. You know, you can work there, different technology.
They're based in the UK. It's great. Yeah.
but someone that does it, to have a place where you know that you can choose which career path you take, or in a company. I don't actually know what I want to do. I don't know what industry I like. I don't know. I don't know what technologies I'm available for, or maybe I think actually I do want to be that CDO at some stage. Where's the best place I can learn to go and get me enough exposure that can go and get you that? So I think smaller boutique consultancies like Ternary Data and or the other two is a place or breeding ground that you can get that. You go into Accenture or something like that, they'll be getting the money's worth out of you in the 2 weeks, and you may just be left on your own with not quite the same support. So I've heard from people we've hired that came from there.
So this is a sponsored segment.
It's right. Well, it kind of is.
But
right?
not by Accenture. They didn't sponsor
Yeah.
Mike Nash, he asks, hey, chaps, no mass. Yeah, for some context, we recorded a show on Friday.
It was a medical show.
Yeah, it ended up looking like that. It looked like ER or something because you got yelled at for not wearing a mask in a lobby. But
I don't think he knew we were live on the show at the time. Actually,
he didn't. Well, I told him we were doing a podcast, but I don't think he knows what that is.
He wouldn't know. He was. He's an old concierge. This is probably not quite.
He's like the lobby liaison. You ever watch Tom Segura, the comedy guy? Anyway, for the audience out there, Google Tom Segura, a bank guy, for that scene. It's pretty funny. Anyway, the guy yelled at us, reminded me a lot of the lobby liaison. He wasn't sure if he works at a bank or not. He just hangs out there. So that's how I felt about this guy. Back to the question. Thanks, Mike. How important is a good interview in a competitive marketplace? Should you focus on qualification, skills, experience, or soft skills, i.e. being a team player most? Mike, thanks, Mike. What do you guys think?
I think if you've got to interview, you know, they've already your qualifications and the skills have probably got your seat at the table. So then I think you just need to make sure you come across as that team player, and keenness to learn, that passion, and then you should nail it then because you've already been shortlisted. And it's not adamant behind, I don't think, but I've got the same one in my hotel room. They've obviously they had the same artist. In fact, every single room seems to be the same. Not that I've been in every single room here, just 2.
Huh.
He asked about the
painting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry,
got it.
I haven't gone that random today. No, there is a reason.
Oh yeah, it's for this adamant. I don't know. We're in the Revere. I think that's Paul Revere, aka Adamant. So Adamant's a good musician, actually. Used to watch the videos when I was a kid. I just grew up in the 80s. Interviews are an interesting one. I would say an interview is it's as much to suss out a candidate these days as it is to market your company. Again, it's not like the good old days when you could just do a really crappy interview and hope to attract great talent. It doesn't work that way. Your interview needs to be as much marketing for why somebody should come work for you.
Exactly.
As it is to figure out a candidate and evaluate whether or not they're going to be a good fit. It works both ways these days.
Yeah.
So,
but let's just say this. I mean, again, we hear a lot. I'm going to call it whining. I think it is whining about the lack of talent. And there's a lack of talent, but be more creative. Again, build people up.
Yeah.
And if you see they're not a fit for that position, say, you know what, maybe I can bring them in here. Maybe it's less money to start.
We've both told this. So I just hired a good friend of mine years ago, just doing a career change. Again, on paper, he wouldn't have got it, but I know he can do it, and he'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
You did a similar thing with your guy. You did some Linux stuff, and now he's still writing adapters for it.
And we have several great employees who've transitioned in various ways.
Unintuitive, counterintuitive, but these they end up being the best ones.
Yeah.
So, I found this in my career too. It's like the most intuitively, the common sense ones actually sometimes end up being the worst candidates that you've hired. Like the person who's went to the Ivy League school, right? The person who ticked all the boxes. They end up having the personality of, on a good day, they might have the personality of like a paper plate, or they might be like really evil.
We're here trash talking Ivy League schools in Boston.
In Boston, this sounds useless. There's nobody here. No, I'm just kidding. That's okay. Moving on. So, J Deep, what's up? Says we're the most underrated YouTube channel for techies by far. Good luck. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We've gotten this response from a lot of people, actually. So yeah, please subscribe to what we're doing on YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever. But yeah, it's crazy.
Don't worry,
how
I'm
many...
not always here. It's just coincidence. I was here Friday and Monday. So
well, we're coming to London. You know that,
right?
Oh
yeah, cool.
Yeah,
that
too.
welcome,
Yeah, but thanks though. I mean, that's awesome. We definitely appreciate the support. But it was crazy too. We have a newsletter, by the way. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter at ternarydata.com, do that. It was nuts how many people we met in Boston as a result of our newsletter, and just saying, "Oh, we're going to be in Boston." People hit us up out of the woodwork, like, "Yo, let's go hang out." Big fan. I do appreciate that. That's awesome because of what it shows. I think is the data world is. And the tech world is really small.
Yep.
Really appreciative of that. So that's cool.
Incidentally, I'll be in the greater New York City.
Yeah,
area
Matt will
for
be
2
in New
weeks,
York,
so,
Big Apple,
yeah.
2 weeks, go hang out.
Going to be in New Jersey, but I'll be into New York quite a bit. So
you shouldn't have said the Jersey part.
What day? I'm there the Monday as well. Well, and the weekend, but that's not for work.
No, this is it's the Matt and Chris tour. So yeah, they'll be in New York City. If you guys want to meet these guys, go for it.
Or cool. Denver after that is my next one, but
Denver.
But I'm meant to be going home, I think.
Keep him in Denver. So he's good.
Things are in Denver when I'm still alive.
Cosmos 177. There's a question here that's on YouTube about DBT. Is it accurate that it is the business specific T which follows ELT? Can DBT work in both modes of sort of BI, transform, store, in I guess MVM? Again, is this model view?
Yeah, materialize view.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I always get okay. So, and transform on the fly, being realm relational view, I guess. Okay, go for it.
So yes, it is the T in the EL. I mean, I like to split things up now into 3 pieces. Now, a CDC bit, I have EL bit, and then TL. So CDC, air by 5-tran, HVR, that sort of stuff. EL, some of them do that. 5-tran do the EL as well, or the Matillions or Riveries and things that do both those. But then there's your TL, which is very much specific to DBT. You normally use DBT in a combination of a few other bits, and it would be for building either a data vault piece, which could be another data modeling technique for what would be maybe your Kimball or your Inman style previously. So build up your lookup tables, your transient tables, and then your facts dimensions. So yeah, that is its sweet spot. That's where it is, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. You got to orchestrate it as well. So you need Airflow or other alternative ones like Prefect, or these guys work with another one as well. Can't remember the name of it. But you're not plugging it.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree. And in fact, the other thing I'd say about DBT is that it's framed as an analytics engineering tool. I actually think it's useful for a lot of other things too. I mean, even some.
Like what, Matt?
For example, featurization in many cases you can do with DBT and SQL.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff you can do with SQL, crossing over all the way from analytics engineering to some machine learning engineering. It's not like a universal tool, but it's a tool in the toolbox that people should be aware of.
I mean, it also it can be used in some areas for doing creating environments, creating structures, and things like that. So I mean, you got Terraform stuff like that for doing it, but there's a lot of stuff you can orchestrate via DBT to go and set up an initial environment. Using some components and building blocks that you can call from it.
Actually, I have an interesting thought too. We were talking about this over the weekend, but DBT is great for now. I would say it's becoming one of the standards, if not the standard, for transformations. But what's next?
Yeah. I got my view.
Pray tell, Chris. What is it?
He's starting a company.
I mean,
what? No transformations. We're not going to do transformations at all.
No. Well, we need to do some transformations, but there's Rivery. I brought it up earlier, and it is that. I think it's less moving parts, and it can do that bit that DBT does. Whether it'll be as big as DBT, I think anything that's open source out there, it'll just take the lead, and then that combination of Airflow, Airbyte, DBT will be the largest because it's open source. It'll be the entry level stuff, and I think what they do collectively. I think if you can find something that you can do with a smaller team, easier to manage, that we go. But while we've got SQL for our pipelines, and I think it's staying around for a while, and everyone thinks maybe you'll move to Spark and things like that. I think it's coming back to it. I think by having the ability to do both, I think. But your pipelines, the majority, always going to be built with SQL still, I think, for a while longer.
Streaming is going to have a big impact on things too, right? And so DBT is very batch oriented. And I think that's sort of where, I'm pretty sure they're probably thinking about that very obvious realization. But
I mean, this is probably not for the education one, but maybe talk about this on another show. But it's that streaming versus batch, because streaming always becomes persisted at some stage. So there's a part of that journey of where things you would do different and where things are always going to stay the same, because real-time analytics, it will just be real-time decisioning points that have been made that will use data that's been persisted from historical stuff. So, but anyway,
we always talk about how I think batch is a special case of streaming, and we sold that from the Flink paper. I'm sure they took it from other people, but it is true. And I was talking about this yesterday with Kevin, who actually from Metaplane, if he's listening, good to meet you. But it was, we kind of talking about where data is going in the next 5 years. And I felt like definitely streaming, but I also sense that there's going to be a lot of inversion of current techniques, precisely because bounded and unbounded data sets just have different needs. And so, it's a very big conversation. So anyway, question.
It's Andrew. Andy, how you doing?
Hi, Andy.
He works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry.
And I didn't. He didn't ask him to actually. So hi Andy. So I've been missing our stand-ups. They're 4 a.m. for us. I haven't gone to them. So what tools? SQL is key to it, but I think the ones that
is that a tool?
No, it's tool. It's okay. It's a language, isn't it? Okay. Well, and then the frameworks around it that run the orchestra. Well, okay. So,
I guess let me flip the question. What tools would you not recommend starting with?
Ab initio. One, you wouldn't be able to get hold of it because it's too but the other one is it's probably a bit dated. I probably wouldn't go and go back and learn the whole Hadoop ecosystem.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd probably leave that alone. I think just looking at automation. I think automation is the future. Yeah. So any of the tools and technologies that support that, be it Terraform, be it CloudFormation, or be it Sketch or schema change or something. So anything that does that, I think that's definitely an area that's just going to get more and more focus, and it just helps with accelerating stuff. I would say Snowflake because I think it's just a great place to learn. You can spin up free and play around with it. And SQL you can transport to anyway. So
it depends on what your use case is too, right? So I mean, I think part of this is what starting with, like, what are you starting out doing, and then I think then the tools kind of fall from there too. But I mean, you point out some obvious anti-patterns. What I see in data engineering, especially, is like, I still see this too, and it drives me insane. Learn data engineering by learning Pig and Hadoop and all this stuff. I'm like, that is exactly the perfect way to waste your time these days.
And the sad part here is that academic institutions started to get on board with concrete technologies, and a lot of them got into teaching Hadoop and stuff. It's like that's already so out of date for most people, unless you have a job that's maintaining.
This is the MapReduce syntax for this.
You should know how MapReduce works. I think that's a good pattern to know, but you don't need to become a Hadoop expert. I mean, those people are they're either shifting their skills or they're going to be modern day COBOL developers.
No, that's just it. Yeah,
they're getting good money now. So
okay, so learn Hadoop.
Learn COBOL.
Learn COBOL because the people that do know it now, they're older than me. Put it that way, right? They're older than me, so they're not going to have much longer. So they're going to need there's going to be a whole gap because the systems that still use COBOL, like airline booking systems, a big bank, they still got it. So that you can clean up. I'm not suggesting anyone learn COBOL actually.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say about tools as well, and this is tied in right with orchestration, is that we're seeing just more and more tool interop. So it used to be that, you buy Teradata, you buy Informatica, you buy some monolithic system, and you just try to do as much as possible within that system. Mm-hmm. And in the cloud, that's no longer necessary. You can pull data into Snowflake to do certain transformations, then ship it off to some, machine learning pipeline or something like this. But you need orchestration to glue all the pieces together. And that's where learning and technology like Airflow or Prefect or Daxter or Riverberry is going to come in really.
I mean, would you learn like Luigi or Uzi at this point?
No, I would not.
Exactly.
But yeah, you want to stay on the current ones. You want to be aware of what's happening in the technology space. And maybe that's another skill set, especially if you want to be a CDO. Just being aware of technologies, even if you can't like actually spin them up, know what they do, talk to people who use them, understand the use cases.
That is, if you're anyone wanting to be that CDO, understanding all the pieces, because otherwise developers will pull the wool over your eyes. They'll say, it's going to take 3 weeks of this, or you went and say they'll call it a block or something. It's not really a blocker. And having that basic understanding of how everything all interacts together is priceless.
And when resume-driven development, right?
Yeah.
Like that's another.
Yeah. Oh, I love that resume. Yeah. So you just think, why do you want to do this? Because I want to learn to use Spark, or I want to learn to use this. But we don't need it though. It's like.
But also, I mean, again, we always talk about Matt Turk's data landscape slides, partly because I think it conveys the point that there are too many technologies at this point, right? So. We always joke that each of those technologies in that landscape requires like 15 years of experience. But it's just, there's too many of them. It's just like a giant constellation, basically a whole galaxy of technologies, and it's not shrinking. That's the crazy part. So to ask the question, out of all the tools out there right now, it's like, it's like saying, okay, like what star is your favorite star in the universe out of all the universe? Let's contemplate this for a bit, guys.
There's so many I like. It's going to be hard to choose to shortlist them.
Yeah, so kind of looping it back, career advice. I think we talked about ways we can get a job, ways to stand out, ways not to stand out. Any other career advice for people that we haven't touched on, or things you want to reiterate?
I think it's going back to that shop window thing. So there's a lot of people out there, and to that point earlier about HR team having a job spec that has that big shopping list. So if you do get through that, you've done well. So just make sure you've got a good, I call it your shop window, but your GitLab, your code repository, or whatever you've got that you're going to be able to talk through in that meeting. You don't have to get it up, but just to talk through it. And if you can actually even whiteboard it, you get up there and just talk through it. This is what I did. Just talk it through. That would give. That would be definitely a sign that you'll be a good candidate, in my opinion, anyway.
For sure. One thing I want to shout out too is Harpreet Sahota. He's got these really cool office hours for data scientists. I think those are awesome too, just to get in the mix with people, ask questions, and I think more importantly, make friends. Like I've seen a lot of success from his show. Again, this data science. Office hours or artist data science office hours or something, but like check that out. I've seen just some people make some tremendous strides in their career based upon just making themselves more visible. Again, my take is obscurity is your biggest enemy, and this is at any point in your career, really, whether you're starting out or have had a job for a while. Like you always got to be making sure people know who you are, so you can get in front of that opportunity. For as many opportunities we say right now, these are mainly for people that already have jobs. If you don't have a job, you're kind of at square one. You ain't kind of at square one. You are at square one or zero, actually. And the first, the hardest part is just getting that intro, getting somebody to give you a chance and talk to you. So,
and then like things like Medium posts. Well, maybe not Medium anymore, but whatever the cool blogging platform is now.
Substack.
Substack is good. Like YouTube videos, actually, even very broad YouTube videos where you explain some concepts.
I think YouTube's probably a really good place for that.
Great. Yeah. Talks again, but especially if they're recorded talks, so someone can go on YouTube and see you speaking at a meetup. That's awesome. Especially write about things where you couldn't find a solution online, and then you're like, "This is how I solved this." And put something up, even if it's simple, even if it's just a simple technical solution, some problem you solved. Put it up there because that's going to demonstrate your your perseverance, your determination, the fact that you enjoy the domain, and your problem-solving skills. To your point, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, we had who was it, Al Bellamy. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about career advice. I mean, he was like a Marine for a career Marine actually for a while, and transitioned into analytics. I mean, hats off to him. But he, I think what he did, he showed like the playbook for doing this, which is be persistent.
One of the best engineers I know. If you're listening, Lloyd, I am talking about you, ex-Marine, cross-trained. He's an absolute. Just a rock star. He just
That's
knows
cool.
Everything about it. I think he did the Valkyrie, the computer game. He did the algorithm for that. So yeah, if you well done, Lloyd.
Underachiever.
Works for a blockchain company. Clever guy.
Huh.
And I've learned something else. So Cosmos 177. I now know what RAIN means. So RAIN means relational. So you've taught me something.
Realm.
Right. Yeah. So I think it was
REL
equals relational.
Okay.
MVIU anyway.
Because I looked at that when I saw MV, I was like, instantly from my software engineering, I thought of like MVC, like model view controller.
Okay.
And it's like, but materialized view probably is more.
I don't know about the 200 char limit he's referring to. You must be using a substandard database.
DB2 or something.
I wouldn't want to comment
by 200 character limit. Have fun with that.
Is that the name of the column? I hope not, because you shouldn't be naming a column with 200 characters. But if it's
that's also true.
Yeah, but if it's actual text volume itself, then you probably won't. Yeah, big in that.
Interesting.
Varchar max.
But how does that relate to transformations? If you had a 200 character limit, like how would that impact you?
Well, you may drop some of the content that's over 200 characters. Small problem if you've got some long comments.
Yeah. I guess it's for the field if it actually contains all the data or not, right? Yeah. Okay. Now I see what you're saying.
Unless you want to be very descriptive of your column names. I don't know if I'd be able to name a column with 200 characters. It'd be quite a long name, wouldn't it?
We see some databases with horrifyingly short column names.
Oh,
you can tell what the data was.
That would probably be DB2 at a 6 character limit back it was. The worst one is when it's actually written by a German company, so you've got German abbreviated names.
I'm just gonna have to go learn German. Come on.
I'm using
Deutschsprechen,
yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. I think it's a good time to wrap it up here. Chris, for people who want to know more about you, what you're up to.
I'm just on this show all the time.
On the show, actually. So
Chris Tabb from Leading HIT, nomadic data traveler, but USA at the moment.
International man of mystery.
I like that legendary. Yeah, has been said. But so anything data tips, data engineering, data architecture is my bag really. So I try and post as much as I can about it, but I do a lot with these guys.
That's cool. It's so much fun. If you haven't, definitely subscribe to our YouTube at Ternary Data. We got videos like this, coming out all the time. We're gonna be doing a lot more content coming up. Gonna be actually posting a new meetup that I did with Firebolt from last week, so expect that this week. It's an abbreviated week, so it's Thanksgiving week, so don't expect any content this week. But
not a lot
at the same time, speaking of which, we do have a newsletter which will be coming out this week. Go to ternarydata.com and subscribe to that. We got a lot. Like I said, it was cool meeting people as a result of the newsletter. People just hit us up big fans. I think it's more surprising to us. We're like, wow, people read our stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's cool. That's good stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Salt Lake City, middle of the country, flyover territory.
But the nice thing with the newsletter is we keep that content exclusive. Like I don't think we may publish some of the archives. I've kind of battled back and forth of not actually doing that because I kind of wanted to follow the kind of back in the day with mixtapes or stuff like that, where it's like very exclusive and people just forward them to each other. Or make copies. Like I kind of want the articles in that newsletter to be like that. So, but who knows if there's enough interest in archives, we can release that. But
only if you join as a member, though. Obviously, that's
free membership. I can forward emails to you with the old stuff. But no, in all seriousness, we try and keep it exclusive for a reason. That's that. But check it out. And so anyway,
check out the book and pre-release. That's another one.
Yeah, at O'Reilly.com. Fundamentals of Data Engineering on O'Reilly.com. Check out. Actually, we have another chapter that just got released. Was it last week? So this chapter is on choosing the right data technologies, and we have several more. Architecture, your favorite topics, coming up pretty soon, and some others. So check it out. And I hope everybody, if you're in the States, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. So it's kind of funny. We're actually in the state where I guess Plymouth isn't that far from here, where they had Thanksgiving. Yeah. So have a good one. Till next time. Next week too, we have Mars Lon from Metaphor Data. We're going to be talking about data catalogs and metadata, and so that's going to be pretty awesome. So what's up, Ravi? It's going to. And
then Kevin, who is going to be on sometime soon. We haven't scheduled a date yet.
Other people too. Got a packed schedule. December is going to be nuts with content, so stay tuned for that. We got a lot of stuff coming out, either live or recorded on the Data Nerd Herd. I think you're going to be shocked at some of the guests that we have coming out real soon. So stay tuned. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.